Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada, where it is our mission to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. We here at UUFNN are growing, not just in numbers, but in our faith that by being and working together, we can bring about justice and build a compassionate community. It is a joy to see each of you this Sunday as we connect for a time of reflection and introspection. We welcome all to be part of us regardless of racial identity, ethnic background, age, economic circumstances, educational achievement, judicial history, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. UUFNN is about compassion and support, not judgment. I'm Bill Miller, personal pronouns, he, him, his, personal passions, climate change, and social justice. It is my pleasure to serve as your worship associate this morning. Likewise, it's my pleasure to welcome back Reverend Summer Albayti, to lead our service today. Her sermon, Rise Up, Muslim Women's Warriors Speak, promises to be informative and inspirational. Thank you, Summer, for joining us today. We at UUFNN love having new people join us for worship. And if that's you, feel free to contact the office or our website for more information. You can also click on the link in the chat box to fill out the newcomer form and sign up for our newsletter that will keep you informed of all the services and activities here at UUFNN. Since we're all meeting on Zoom, please note you can update your name on screen, which helps everyone know who you are. Note that you will remain muted during the service, but that you can use the chat box for comments, especially during the prayer and meditation sessions. As a courtesy, please refrain from posting announcements while folks are presenting. Following the service, I invite you to join us for coffee time, where we will break into small groups to visit virtually face-to-face. Thank you for being with us this morning.
The call to worship this morning is by Rabia al-Basri, an 8th century Sufi mystic. Eyes are at rest, the stars are setting, hushed are the stirrings of birds in their nests, of monsters in the ocean. You are the just who knows no change, the balance that can never swerve, the eternal which never passes away. The doors of kings are bolted now and guarded by the soldiers. Your door is open to all who call upon you. Each love is now alone with his beloved, and I am alone with you. I invite you to light your own chalice if you have one, or the chalice in your heart, as I read our chalice lighting this morning. One day, Rabia was seen running, carrying fire in one hand and water in the other. They asked her the meaning of her action and where she was going. She replied, I am going to light a fire in paradise and pour water in hell, so that both veils, hindrances to the true vision of God, completely disappear. And with those words, we light our beloved chalice. Woo, beautiful. That got the spirit going. Thank you, Bill. So our reading this morning is by Suhaima Mansour Khan. It is called The Virtue of Disobedience. We are the disobedient. Look upon us and despair, for we outlast history, time, and memory. We are always there. We are the unquenchable thirst for justice, the bodies that do not bend, tongues you cannot straitjacket, and eyes that will not be turned blind. We are the step you trip on in the night, the nightmare you wake from but cannot recall, the lump under the rolling hill that reminds you what is buried there. We are the disobedient. We bear witness and we testify. We love despite the lie that we are not worthy. We hold despite being told we should hide. Yes, we are the disobedient who refuse to die. For bodies without eulogies will never remain in their graves. We are the ghosts of the unmourned and the spirits of the never grieved. We are the original traitors to the tireless tyrant.
This is a time in our service when we have the opportunity to share our bounty with each other. It is through your generosity and dedication that we here at UUFNN are self-sufficient. By each of us stepping forward and offering what we can, we provide a support for all who need, for all that we do, and for all that need each other and what we can provide to the wider community. Please share what bounty you can by texting 73256, that's 73156, type in UUFNN, and then hit send. You can also mail a check to the office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, 89511. Or if you want to simplify the process, you can sign up for automatic giving. Contact Carol at the office for the authorization form. We are also sharing the plate with Tu Casa Latina, a nonprofit organization founded in 2014 by our own Zamora Rodriguez and Corey Hernandez. These women saw the need to help build a better life for immigrant women, men, and children who are victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, or other abuse. Tu Casa Latina has worked to improve lives through education, advocacy, and community involvement, and was recently asked to testify before the US Congress on Latina issues. Now let the offering begin, and thank you all for taking care of our beloved community. Please join me. Please join me as we bless these offerings. To the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy, we dedicate ourselves and these, our offerings.
In 2017, Muslim activist and co-founder of the Women's March, Linda Sarsour, received hundreds of death threats on social media because she was accused of waging a war against then President Trump. The piece on Breitbart News had the headline, Linda Sarsour calls for jihad against Trump administration. They had taken two different comments, one that spoke of the spiritual concept of jihad, and another that claimed there were Islamophobes in the White House, and then jumped to the illogical conclusion that Linda was waging a holy war against the president. Now, the term jihad was misconstrued because it is a deeply spiritual term to mean struggle or to strive to live in the most authentic way, to merge with the divine's desire for the beloved community, to become a more compassionate and merciful and loving person. It is not about a holy war with others, but a struggle within. And it is certainly not about violence, and yet this word has been used by Islamophobes and the media to create the perfect image of the Arab terrorist in the mind's eye of so many unsuspecting Americans. This deeply spiritual term that speaks of the nafs, or ego, and facilitating spiritual steps to let go of or kill the ego in order to reveal your true and authentic self, has been hijacked in order to facilitate the vilification, demonization, and dehumanization of the Arab Muslim. As a result, Linda Sarsour received hundreds of messages that day in which people stated they would hang her for treason, rape her daughters, and assassinate her with a .33 caliber. And these are just a portion of the messages that called for her violent death by those who accused her of being anti-Semitic, wanting Sharia law in the United States, and being a terrorist sympathizer. All of these accusations, while untrue, are what most Arab Muslims are accused of when they rise up for the human rights of others or for themselves. In our reading from today, Virtue of Disobedience, from British Pakistani educator and writer Suhaima Manzoor Khan, reflects her work to disrupt understandings of race, knowledge, and power, interrogating the political purpose of narratives about Muslims, migrants, gender, and violence. And in it, she says, we are the unquenchable thirst for justice, the disobedient, the original traitors to the tireless tyrant. Certainly, Linda Sarsour embodies this description, and in so doing, in being disobedient, by naming that we were in danger, she received the punishment too many have known too well by those very people who wish to create an America that keeps us all in chains by taking away our freedoms. Both of these women portray the opposite of the docile image of the Muslim woman who needs to be rescued from patriarchy in the East, one of the images projected in the West. See, from the time of its inception, Islam had women warriors who took up a literal sword and shield when the Islamic community was under physical attack. The most well-known was a companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Nusayba bint Ka'b, peace be upon her. This Muslim woman warrior fought alongside the Prophet, and her husband and sons joined her in protecting the Prophet when the tribe known as the Quraysh tried to assassinate him for preaching about equality, justice, and freeing slaves. This liberative theology was progressive for the times, and Muslim women warriors like Nusayba knew that Islam and the Prophet as leader was attempting to change culture, one that was not only conservative, but controlling of women in such a way that they practiced female infanticide in pre-Islamic times. Nusayba was considered a leader. She was teaching women about the Quran and had more than just courage on the battlefield. One day she approached the Prophet and asked why the Quran only addressed men. Since the Quran was revealed over time, this question regarding gender equality then revealed a verse that addressed both men and women, providing for an instant repair to a harm done and cultivating culture change. Nusayba participated in many battles, but it came with a price. She lost 2 of her sons in war. One in one battle had gotten injured, and in the middle of battle, she patched him up and told him to rise up and fight to protect the Prophet. The other was captured by the Byzantines and tortured because he did not denounce the prophet as a false prophet. Nusayba had to bear the grief of a son who was tortured to death for his beliefs and commitment. Nusayba suffered much loss, even losing an arm. But despite the sacrifices, continued to fight for justice. See, a liberative faith such as Islam was like a breath of fresh air in Arabia at that time. Perhaps that is why there were so many women who took up a sword, like Hawla bint al-Aswad, whose story is one of my favorites. Hawla also lived in the 7th century and was such an amazing Muslim woman warrior that she led other women warriors into battle. And she was known to be extremely gifted with a sword, that she got mistaken for the big general in her very first battle. The inciting incident that drew her to the battlefield that day was witnessing her beloved brother taken prisoner. When she saw this, Hawla charged into the chaos of horses, soldiers, and swords and single-handedly turned the battle around for the Muslims who were losing. She also was able to rescue her brother, impressing all that fought by her side. But one day, in another battle, Hawla was captured, and the Roman Byzantines at that time were constantly attempting to push into Arabia and expand their empires. Now, when she was captured, she was in a tent with other Arab women who were prisoners. And she was told that the Byzantine general demanded that she be brought to his tent later that evening. Well, Hawla wasn't going to have that, obviously. And she was convinced, and she convinced the other women to use the tent poles as spears in order to free themselves. That day, Hawla was responsible for killing at least 5 guards, including the general himself, with nothing but a pole. And she was able to rescue herself and the other women from captivity and enslavement. These are just a sampling of Muslim women warriors during the time of the Prophet. There were others who succeeded them even after the Prophet passed. These were women of deep faith and courage. They believed that Islam was a life-saving faith that provided them with an equality that they had never experienced before. I'm not surprised that given the context of the 7th century, that they then took up arms despite the potential sacrifices. But what of modern Muslim women warriors? Who might they be? Well, you've probably heard of women in Iraq helping to fight off outsiders like ISIS, those who have terrorized Iraqis, creating refugees of many, many families, my beloved family members included. Afghanistan also has Muslim women warriors who have joined forces to fight the Taliban there, with so many widowed, so many losses, so many losing their rights that Islam brought to them. Fighting for freedoms may feel like the one courageous act that they can do to protect their rights and the rights of their daughters, granddaughters, and great-granddaughters. Then there are those who take up not swords, but the pen. I'm talking about journalists, attorneys, musicians, poets, and activists. These women come from a long line of women who over the years have fought for culture change within patriarchal systems, and they have used their faith as a reminder of their rightful seat at the table. And there have been big wins for women's rights in various Islamic countries as a result. Those who take up the pen in various forms remind us that changes are needed to create justice in our world, like Muslim female musicians. Dr. Sylvia Al-Ajaji, professor of music at Franklin and Marshall College, in an interview, speaks about Muslim women hip hop artists. Dr. Al-Ajaji says, yes, Muslim female rappers exist and we need to listen to what they have to say. As a genre historically rooted in expressions of marginality, rap allows these women to maneuver between the simultaneous dimensions of their reality. By claiming this space that hip hop provides, Muslim women can address on their terms the complex, contradictory, and multifaceted identities they must constantly tread. Hip hop has become a powerful mode of communication for Muslim women and for women of the Arab world. Whether Christian or Muslim, these women spit rhymes that challenge notions of submissiveness, invisibility, and voicelessness. Sometimes their songs are about love, sometimes they're silly, and sometimes they address issues of gender inequality and give voice to their unique perspectives on the Arab uprisings, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, 9/11, the West's relationship with the Middle East, and reflections on their everyday lives. Shadia Mansour, who was donned the title First Lady of Arab Hip Hop, is a British Palestinian artist who raps about marginalization, occupation, and cultural appropriation. Shadia wears traditional Palestinian clothing and raps in Arabic to preserve her culture because she believes there has been a slow erasure of the Palestinian and Arab identity. As a response to yet another cultural appropriation, Shadia created a song that spurred much controversy, thus disrupting the narrative that continued to erase her and others' existence. In so doing, Shadia says she participates in non-violent resistance. Recently, the well-known Louis Vuitton designer had taken the kafia, we say in Iraqi dialect chafia, kafia in other Arabic dialects, a scarf. Kafia is a scarf that has become a symbol of resistance and freedom, and it slapped the LV logo onto it and charged a pretty penny, I might add, in a move that some felt was cultural appropriation. Now, whether it was cultural appropriation or not, or whether it was an act of solidarity with the Palestinian people instead, I don't know. But the song that Shadia wrote was written prior to 2021 because of others who misappropriated the kafia in the past. Listen to her lyrics translated from the Arabic. No matter how they design it, no matter how they change its color, the kafia is Arab and it will stay Arab. The scarf, they want it. Our intellect, they want it. Our dignity, they want it. Everything that's ours, they want it. We won't be silent. We won't allow it. It suits them to steal something that ain't theirs and claim that it is. Other artists affirm the strength of the Muslim woman through their songs in English, like Ani Zonfeld, founder of Muslim progressive values right here in Los Angeles and spread throughout the world. And Ani is the first Malaysian American Grammy winner who sings a song called Just Like Khadija about the Prophet's wife, who was the first woman to embrace Islam and support the growth of the Muslim community. I have fond memories of singing this song in the car with my niece, Aisha, who would ask me to put the Super Muslim Woman song on. Here are a part of those lyrics. Just like Khadija, I want to be strong, stand up for what's right, and fight what's wrong. Just like Khadija, I want to be that girl a super Muslim woman in this world. The lyrics speak about the strength of a woman who stood up for equality and was therefore like a super heroine, right? And I used to love singing this with my niece because I knew she was getting a message that is so important for young girls to hear. Ani is herself a superwoman. Ani promotes human rights in various Islamic countries across the world and at the United Nations, especially rights for LGBTQ plus communities in those countries. Journalist Rafid Ziadeh turned to spoken word poetry because of the horrific questions and statements she was assaulted with by others in her field. Her poem, We Teach Life, Sir, and I would encourage you to go and listen to it on YouTube. It is phenomenal. We Teach Life, Sir was a response to another journalist saying to her as bombs fell on Gaza, don't you think it would all be fine if you stop teaching your children to hate? Her poem, she says, is a response to the continual dehumanization of the oppressed who refuse to be dehumanized and instead embrace life because existence is resistance. Here is a portion of her spoken word poem. I wish I could just run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold every child, cover their ears so they wouldn't have to hear the sound of bombing for the rest of their life the way I do. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. And let me just tell you, there is nothing your UN resolutions have ever done about this. And no soundbite I come up with, no matter how good my English gets, no soundbite will bring them back to life. No soundbite will fix this. We teach life, sir. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir. Powerful, powerful words. Egyptian journalist and activist Mona El-Tahawi, in her book, The 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls, which you can get in our In Spirit bookstore, by the way, reminds us that as the US political climate grows more and more fraught, it is imperative that we are agile in the ways we confront patriarchy and the host of oppressions it employs. It is increasingly obvious that the women of color elected to the US Congress in 2018 have proven disruptive for the patriarchy and other powers unaccustomed to challenge. It is clear that much of the outrage and many of the headlines have less to do with what the lawmakers have actually said and more to do with who said it. Yes, it appears that even in our own United States, the patriarchal agenda competes to stay alive and attacks anyone who opposes it. Today, women of color, our transgender siblings, and girls are being assaulted with laws that would take away their rights to autonomy over their own bodies. Most recently, you may have heard that Texas passed a law that will not allow for abortions after 6 weeks. Some may not even know that they are pregnant until then. This horrific assault became the inciting incident for a valedictorian at a Texas high school to take that platform and give a speech about how that impacted her rights and freedoms and future. In an interview, Paxton Smith said she was surprised they didn't cut her mic because that was not the approved speech. Paxton participated in opposing the patriarchy that is using the legal system to assert its control by pulling out a new speech and not alerting the powers that be that she was changing it. Paxton used her privileged position to disrupt the narratives that are taking away rights. And we are all called to disrupt such narratives. Those that are taking away reproductive rights and voting rights and rights to compete in school sports with the gender you claim, not what someone else claims for you. We are called to affirm rights based on equality, not racism, not gender bias, but those that state that we are all created equal. Because as Unitarian Universalists who bring a saving faith to the world, we are called to rise up like all of these Muslim women warriors from the 7th century until today, who risk their lives every time they rise. And like a valedictorian in Texas, we are called to disrupt the system that continues to oppress and take away our freedoms. But that takes courage and faith and belief that what we fight for is worth the sacrifice. I don't know about you, but I cannot be my authentic self if I do not rise up and speak out against injustice. I cannot be my authentic self if I am too afraid to charge onto the battlefield with my life-saving words. I cannot be my authentic self if I don't believe with all of my heart that this faith, this Unitarian Universalist faith will save our nation and our world from its eventual demise. If only we all rise up and be that change that we are called to be. But it will take each of us to look into our hearts, let go of ego, working on our own inner struggles, our own jihads, to find our authentic voice that can add to the disruption movement that we are all called to participate in. It will take courage and faith to rise up, just as it did and does for the Muslim women warriors we've learned about today. And it may take sacrifice, as it does for those who risk death threats every time they try to change the system. But as long as we believe that this is a saving faith, we can continue to rise because our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren are counting on us to be warriors on this battlefield of life. Rise up, Unitarian Universalist warriors. Rise up and call on this country to do better. We all await your unique voice to disrupt the narrative and change our future and save our nation and our world. Rise up, Unitarian Universalist warriors. Rise up.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Thank you, Summer, for that incredibly inspirational and informative talk, reminding us all that jihad is essentially a battle within the heart against the ego and its cowardice and narcissism. It's good to be reminded that that is the true essence of the word. Now is the time in our service for offering up your prayers and concerns. Since we're on Zoom, you can enter them in the chat box during this time of prayer and meditation. Let us join together in our gesture of hope and connection, one hand on your heart, the other reaching out in connection, as we bless these concerns with a poem from Rumi. Whatever comes from a need, a sore distress, a hurting want. And every need brings in what is needed. Pain bears its cure like a child. Be thirsty for the ultimate water, and then be ready for what will come pouring forth from the spring. Blessed be.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time with us, you can learn more about connecting with UUFNN here at www.uufnn.org/online-connections. To receive our weekly email and other updates from UUFNN, click on the link to our contact card in the middle of the page. If you need help with Zoom or other support, or know of someone who does, or know of anyone feeling isolated who may need connection, contact Carol Sorensen at the office at uufnn.org. Note, our Verde Posse has changed its name to the Reno Posse. Its dedicated volunteers continue their mission to help feed our hungry neighbors. You can help them by donating refillable water bottles, individually wrapped snack bars and juice pouches, ready-to-eat canned foods, personal wipes, and a gallon bottle of water. Please drop them at UUFNN by 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. Our cooks, bakers, baggers, and couriers continue to follow COVID precautions to ensure everyone's safety. For more details, look at the weekly UUFNN e-news or contact Carol at office@uufnn.org. And now Sheila Shea has an update on the results of our vaccine auction, which apparently were quite remarkable. Sheila, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. Well, my message today on the vaccine auction is a great big thank you. First of all, we've been doing this auction for about 10 to 15 years, and it gets better every year. The people I want to thank today is particularly the donors, because without those hikes and brunches and lunches and dinners and services and more, we wouldn't have an auction. So thank you. Then we have the bidders. There were 363 bids put in for the auction today, this week, by email or on last Sunday. And those events and services filled up the summer and the fall with lots of gatherings, which will bring us more togetherness. And I call that the priceless part of the auction. The third group of people that I want to thank are, and there's lots of them, volunteers, those that helped on June 6th to set up, tear down, and everything else, who brought food and bakery items. And then the underthanked Carol in the office, who, if you want to know, is celebrating 14 years today with UUFNN. Ooh. And we kept her really busy sending out all those wonderful emails that you got. And last of all, of course, the hardworking auction team. We're going to be partying this week to do our own celebration. So you'll probably hear the fireworks on Tuesday night. The cut of the auction, the final net figure, is not yet done, but it's in the range of 18,500. That's net. And we're still counting. If you still want to donate, I'm going to give you that opportunity because I never miss an opportunity. And in the text box, you'll see that if you send a message to auction@uufnn.org, I get the email, and you just need to tell me I'm going to donate X amount, and I'm going to send my check to the office written out to UUFNN with auction in the note space, so the auction gets credit for it. And the last thing is, I didn't mention that the Tech for Togetherness, which is Reverend Karen's paddle raise, that raised, and it's included in that 18,500, it raised $2,350 as of this point. So I don't think I have anything else to say except thank you. This is the greatest community. I just love sitting here counting all your money and figuring out it's another successful year. So merci, gracias, and thank you.
Well, Sheila, we see your thank you and raise you one. A remarkable job by you and the crew in this what should we say, socially dysfunctional year to pull this off. So well done. Now, please stay online to join our informal social coffee time. You'll see an invitation appear on your screen at the end of the service to join a breakout room with groups of 8 to 10 people. And if during that coffee time you need help, support, or questions answered, please press the help button in your breakout room. As we bring today's service to a close, please join us in singing the hymn, I Know I Can.
Praise the Lord, my souls. Burdens weigh my heart. Though trouble waits at every turn, and I know I can go on. Sorrow heals my soul. Burdens make me strong. Though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song. Though trouble waits at every turn, I know I can go on.
Let us now join together in our traditional gesture, hand to hand, as we end today's service, again from a poem from Rumi. In our gathering, one candle lights hundreds. We will light your path and give you courage, so you will open like a flower and join in our joyous laughter. Plant the seed of truth and watch it grow. When it spreads its branches, come with us and sit under the blossoms. Your eyes will open to the secret of truth. Blessed be. Amen. Namaste. Thank you.